we want to get to $10 billion company in a treasury in the next 5 years, converting our assets in Bitcoin, and we need to raise equity from the market in different forms. If Michael did it, he's already in a more than $100 billion valuation, and he did it with maybe 50% of that. So I think the market still have a long way to go. The Bitcoin is something that's going to be forever. It's going to be here, so eventually it's going to be like something that maybe you and I never know what's going to happen in the next 20, 50 years.
Welcome to the Bitcoin for Corporations show. My name is Pierre Rochard. I'm joined today by Elías Sacal to discuss the intersection between Bitcoin corporate adoption and the real estate industry, especially from an international perspective. But before we dive into the conversation, Spencer, how are you? Thanks for producing the podcast.
Thank you, Pierre. Happy to be here as always. And for today's episode, I'm going to do something a little bit different and do a little bit of a weekly news breakdown. So with that said, we are recording today on July 17th, and Bitcoin is sitting at about $118,000 per coin. And over the past week, we've seen 6 Bitcoin for Corporations member companies add a collective 5,600 Bitcoin to their balance sheets. So this includes Strategy, the Smarter Web Company, Liquid, Metaplanet, Semler Scientific, as well as the Blockchain Group. As well, Bitcoin for Corporations is excited to announce that we have 2 new members joining our organization. That includes Avalon Labs as well as BitGo, so congratulations to them both. And finally, probably the biggest news item of the week is we saw an announcement that Cantor Fitzgerald is entering into a SPAC deal with atom-backed Blockstream to acquire 30,000 Bitcoin in exchange for equity. This mirrors the SoftBank and Tether venture that was entered into not too long ago, including Jack Mallers of Strike. So it looks like the corporate adoption train is continuing to roll along here. So with all that said, Pierre, I will leave it to you and our special guest, Elías Sacal, to take it from here.
Awesome. So really exciting developments there. Elias, so welcome to the show. I want to first start with kind of what your Bitcoin journey has been on a personal level and so far, and then we can get into Grupo Murano.
I follow Bitcoin since maybe 12, 13 years when everything started. Obviously, it was something totally innovation, totally difficult at the beginning to understand how this born, how this keep alive, and the most important part, how can we use it in their regular business lives or savings lives. We like a lot the market, how it's taking very serious this, how the market really think that this is something to take it out of the economics of the world, the difference of geopolitical situations. This is something that is not regulated, is regulated only by the market. So my life in real estate, the most important part of that is equity. Or when you get a construction loan or you get a mortgage for your building, or so that market is totally very difficult, especially when depending on the prices of the tomatoes in Walmart for the interest rate. If there is inflation, there is nothing to do one thing with the other, but practically the market's ruled by the interest rates. So any mortgage, any construction loan, any advice in equity or any investor, everything depends on how perform you can do the property, and it doesn't matter where it's located or how is going to be the appreciation of a market. Like I tell them, with these crazy rates, nobody care about the real estate. Remember when our parents or grandparents said the most important real estate is location, location, location? That disappeared. Now everything wants yield, 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 and it's impossible to follow the yields depending on the market. So having Bitcoin as something to be really the rule of the economics in real estate for buying any kind of land, construction in Bitcoin, pay the vendors in Bitcoin. When you develop any kind of real estate, hotels, hospitality, warehouses, we need something more stable to follow proper market implementation, because it's extremely difficult to get a loan and pay in dollars, and the interest rate is floating. So when you are finished that, so this Bitcoin idea to use Bitcoin for the real estate, especially when you are a developer or it's going to be more easy and open 100 more options to make any kind of economics for the real estate market. So I think I'm the first one in that industry to try to implement that. But I remember in 2011 or 12 or 13, one of my developers in Puerto Vallarta, one guy want to pay me the deposit in Bitcoin. I remember the Bitcoin at that time was nothing. With what? What is this? I will die to see what happened with that guy with those Bitcoin that he has at that time, because for sure he bought something and somebody. So the transfer of that particular mode of economics is very excited, and it's very easy today to move from one user to other user the Bitcoin. So it's the future of the real estate. It cannot be any more local currencies or dollar or euro, and depending, you go to Brazil is real, and the real can change 20 times for Argentina. Eventually, the real estate in the world is going to be ruled by Bitcoin transactions. That's how I see it, and this is going to be the future.
Yeah. So I agree with that, and I'm really curious to hear about your background in terms of real estate. Of how did you get into the real estate industry, and what has your role been in it thus far?
My experience became since my father real estate business in Mexico City. Then I discovered the trading of real estate in a massive, let's say, buildings, office buildings, commercial real estate. And then I discovered the this market of second home in Mexico. All the Americans, Canadian, Mexicans, they like to go to the beautiful resorts. In the 80s, 90s, 2000s, I was part of the developing of cities like Cabo, like Puerto Vallarta, like Cancun, like maybe you remember Acapulco, Ixtapa. I started from scratch construction, selling at that time to communities, and my practically how I did it, my one by one was in the construction of real estate, residential start. Then at the same time, I invest in hotels, I invest in warehouses, commercial, Mexico City. So one thing brings you to the other, especially when you are a developer, you have the advantage of the taxes and the advantage of the situation of the market, and you can invest. There is a lot of people to like to have somebody with my expertise for construction, for management, for the difficult things. Any fund to come to Mexico and they have to deal with the environmental authorizations or have to deal with the local authorities for a construction process, it's very, very difficult. In all the world today, especially the environmental situation, but in Mexico, with the experience that we have the team, and we know the legally how to do it. So I was more than 30 years developing in Mexico, always with a situation about the stability of the currency, Mexican currency or dollar, and the interest rates. I started construction of a beautiful hotel in Cancun. The interest rate was at 4%. Now it's at 9%. That's incredible. That cannot happen. And the hotel is the same. The cost is the same. The client is the same. But today, with this crazy about the inflation in America or the inflation in the world, the interest rate is ruling by different factors, not by real estate. Real estate need to be totally independent of the rate of the tomatoes and the Walmart inflation and electricity inflation. Has to be something very stable like Bitcoin to change completely the form that the people develop buying and selling real estate.
Now, here in the U.S., and I know globally this is true, that the real estate industry, to your point, is dominated by debt financing, right? Where the interest rates matter a lot for what projects are viable and what doesn't work. How do you see Bitcoin integrating into the structure? Is it because you can hold Bitcoin on the balance sheet? Is it because you can borrow against the Bitcoin, or that how do you see the different opportunities there?
When you have a platform like we have with a lot of assets, we have more than $1 billion in assets. Our idea is transform that money parking there for something to be part of our treasury of Bitcoin. How are we going to do that? Refinance, sale-leaseback, continue with the operation, continue with the custody of the assets. And instead of having all these huge buildings sitting there and waiting for small appreciation, I think the appreciation is going to be in the Bitcoin. So we're going to put that money. For the future, we think the economics of the growth of our company implement on Bitcoin for different transactions. Plus, a lot of people, they have the same problem that we had before. We are public. We're in America. the biggest market in the world. And we do this innovation of Bitcoin Treasury. So a lot of families in Latin America, in America, big funds, they said, okay, I give you my buildings, put it in your balance sheet, give me shares of the company, put my money in Bitcoin, and we're going to have win-win. We're going to win in the operation. We don't want to have the headache of the situation of what's going on with interest rates. And we're going to have the appreciation of the Bitcoin, or at least the safe to have Bitcoin. So I think it's going to be maybe a 5-year journey to put full integration of real estate in Bitcoin with real estate. For now we're doing with we need to establish also a community to learning more about Bitcoin in our users of the properties that we own. We are managed hotels by different brands like Hyatt, like Mondrian, like Accor Group. We have residential of the developed, and everybody understanding and learning that the safe place to have all that is in Bitcoin. So I think the future of my company is going to grow not only in the equity, the people is going to buy the shares in the stock market. A lot of commit of families like my family to put these portfolios inside a company that will well manage it and transform that assets. And a Bitcoin is going to be for both of them. They are going to have not only the yield of the Bitcoin, they're going to have the yield of the company, and they're going to have the appreciation of the Bitcoin, because we are believers that this could be minimum, can go 200 or 300% in the next 5 years, the price.
Wish you could access cash without selling your Bitcoin? LATAM is the global leader in Bitcoin-backed lending. They've issued over $9 billion in loans since 2018 and never lost a single Satoshi of client assets. A LATAM loan is different. With custodied loans, collateral is not lent out to generate interest. No credit checks, funds in under 12 hours, with proof of reserves reports published every 6 months. LATAM gives Bitcoin holders a secure and transparent way to unlock liquidity without selling. Learn more at latam.io.
So the idea is that you've got currently or historically the real estate industry has had as collateral the buildings, right? And the land that it's on. To your point, the buildings have depreciation. So it might be over 30 years. It's constantly losing value. It needs to be renovated. It needs to be maintained. And that you're adding to that collateral package Bitcoin as a way of unlocking financing, because now the Bitcoin, instead of having depreciation, it has a much higher probability of appreciation. And that you're getting the best of the cash flows from the operations of the rent or the hotel, right? Or the real estate operations throwing off cash.
Yeah, in a normal situation, let me give you rough numbers. In a normal situation, when you have a property managed, like let's say hospitality, the yield has to be around 12% a year. So if you have a component of loan at 5 or 6%, your equity became more than 18% revenue. So you have that, and there is a lot of instruments that you can transform those 6% in less money. There is a lot of REITs that they want to receive a fixed rent. They are for that. The investors are passive investors, that they have like a pension fund and all that, very conservative. They have the real estate credit, but they don't want to manage the property. So when you can have both things, manage the hotel, and at the top of that, get the yield without carry the equity in your books, and without having the debt in your books, it's a win-win. Because instead of having a hotel of $100 million with $60 million debt, and you can make you 40 million, maybe 5, 6, 7%, you make 20% or 40% in all the money, 30% in all the money, and you have the property, and you can put the economics of the sales every day and the tourists who come to the hotel in this Bitcoin situation can increase, that another hotels are going to come and going to join the club. That's logic, because eventually the people are going to use this for the everyday life. It's more clean. It's more easy to use. If you see, 90% of any transaction in the hotel is paid by credit card today. Nobody uses money anymore. So if you can implement in top of that points of the people receiving Bitcoin, if they use, we're talking now to one of the biggest companies to use that his platform as a payments. Eventually, we're going to tell you about it the next week when we sign it. So it's a very good idea that the people are living in that world of Bitcoiners using for the everyday life. They don't have to tell nothing to anybody, and everybody is completely transparent where they have it, where they keep it, this on their names, all that thing that people saying before, the who's the owner, who's the custody, all that is already 5 years away.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned kind of the transactional expenses. You've got people making payments with credit cards. That comes with a fee, right? That a lot of credit card companies will charge the merchant like 3%. And then on top of that, the foreign exchange fee, right? If you have dollar liabilities and you have peso revenues that you need to convert into dollars, that adds up quite a lot.
Or vice versa.
Yeah.
Sometimes for surprises, sometimes the peso can go from 20 to 21 or can go from 20 to 17. So when you sell all the real estate world is in dollar-oriented currency. I think that could change to a Bitcoin-oriented currency because exactly like that. You have to do 2 or 3 transactions. At the end, the $100 you receive it became only $85 with all the commissions and also for the user. Also for the client, for the tourist. Instead of receive 100 cents on a dollar, he received maybe 85% because all the commissions in the middle and the interest rate and all that.
Now, I think that one of the challenges that I've heard within the Bitcoin Treasury company space is that of refinancing. You mentioned that's an issue in real estate as well. Every industry that has leverage faces that issue of refinancing. Saylor's approach to it is to have perpetual preferreds so that he doesn't have to have that risk of refinancing. But that's kind of it's a new market that he's developing. How do you think about the risks of leverage in the context of Bitcoin plus real estate and how to manage that?
At the end, any transaction of real estate, especially when there is a loan or a mortgage, it's a people who bring the money from somebody to give it to you. So everybody's in the commission. They want to have fees, they have to have commission. So there is like 5, 6 different. The strategic investor give the money to the hedge fund. The hedge fund put it in a portfolio. The portfolio manager give it to the. So at the end of the day, everybody's they're the middleman. So if we have something to take out all these people in the real estate transactions, I think will be a lot of savings, a lot of growth, because the problem is get the money. And the money is the stabilization of the property. If the property, the guarantee is there. Today, the system of real estate in the world works very well because the guarantee are there. They have a special laws for owning real estate. So there's real estate stuff there. Or every country has a way to secure that the property is going nowhere and it's going to be the same owner. There is a lot of trust, a lot of different instruments. So when you have that security, there's any kind of investor to come. What he put it about these instruments to secure something more normal, he do it because the appreciation is going to be more than that for sure. So this is a win-win for him that have paying 10% a year when he made 10% in 1 week last week. You understand me? So eventually this is going to be practically stabilized, but I think it's far away because I think 80% of the people now they're doing this, especially like me. Now we understand it. Now we know what it is. We don't want to know who bring it to the world or who pay the electricity every day to stay alive. We care that this is a commodity that we can use and buy your house, and you're gonna buy my hotel. That's it. And we have secure where, let's say, where to put it, and it's like a safe place. Everything is transparent because when you have a real estate, you know who's the buyer, and when you sell a real estate, you know who's the client. So at the end of the day, it's all the transactions will be totally in a books. So when you're a public company, you need to take care of that. But I think the future of the real estate, it's oriented 100% on something more stable than the currency we have today. I have friends of mine, they have the best properties in New York in Fifth Avenue and Madison Avenue. And depending on the market, the properties they go away because they cannot refinance. The interest rate is in the roof. So the properties became empty. Nobody's going to take it. It's like a circle that nobody wins. And when the banks need to take it over, they don't have nothing to do with it because there's no buyers. So why? Because the interest rate cannot be anymore the rule number one of real estate. The rule of real estate is the people, the appreciation of the building. And when you have the Bitcoin in the middle of that, it's a win-win for everyone.
So do you think that with COVID's inflation and then the Federal Reserve raising interest rates to more than 4% for the prime rate, do you think that is a catalyst for more real estate investors gaining interest in Bitcoin because
100%.
of that effect?
I think for now, the problem especially in America, the people was very addicted to us for a lot of different type of loans, mortgages, mezzanine loans, mezzanine of the mezzanine. So everybody want to do a huge business without practically money. So when the music stops and the interest went like this, they need to pay instead of 4%, 8% to the bank. The mezzanine, instead of 12, they have to pay 18. And the mezzanine of the mezzanine became totally a mess. So there is no property can pay. Okay, it was the pandemic was 1 year and finished. Now we have already 4 or 5 years to finish the pandemic, 3, 4 years. Why the things are like this? Nobody understands it, but it can happen again. So the people, especially in the market, the big owners, the big REITs, they need to understand, they need to implement something like this, a kind of secure to have something more stable. Not forget about the people that want to invest in Bitcoin. They don't want to use it as a in their books. They need to use it as a trading merchandise for the real estate. That's how we see it. We try to implement that. On top of that, we're planning to have a lot of custody of the Bitcoin treasury, the investors. So we're gonna make two things: keep the Bitcoin in a treasury. We are committed. We want to get to $10 billion company in a treasury in the next 5 years. This is practically money that we're gonna have converting our assets in Bitcoin, monetized, and we need to raise equity from the market in different forms. But I think that can happen if Michael did it. He's already in a more than $100 billion valuation. And he did it with maybe 50% of that. So I think the market still have a long way to go.
So from a capital raising perspective, do you plan to allocate all of that to Bitcoin, or are you going to be maintaining a portfolio mix between real estate assets and Bitcoin?
No, we're making money developing. So eventually we need to have a percentage of the business manage real estate from us. Maybe we're going to manage from somebody else. But the idea is to buy a piece of land somewhere, put something construction, put a nice project, developing, make 300% of our money there. And that money became, instead of having, we do it again and we do it again. Now we can have the potential to do it in a lot of places in the world. We want to do it, but we're going to be focused 100% to have let's say 20, 30% of the business in developing and 70, 80% of the business in Bitcoin treasury, plus another instruments could be complementary of that, but not another crypto. We don't believe in another crypto. I think this is enough. This is like when you go and you watch Formula One, you watch only Formula One. You don't watch the Formula 2, Formula 3, or the other formulas. So you watch Formula One, especially in football, NFL. The champion is a champion. I think in this world that we live in, Bitcoin is a champion. Is a Formula One. Is the NFL. Is when you go to tennis, Bitcoin. I think is very, very, very far.
I think it's really interesting that to acknowledge the fact that real estate as an asset class has been overvalued and monetized because people want to put money to work, and it's just turned into a yield product instead of really being one based on location, which should be obviously crucial to real estate. But in response to that, to say, okay, well, you're going to have a real estate business that is really going to focus on the process of building up real estate and not of actually owning it. And then instead of owning the real estate, you're going to own Bitcoin. Do you think that's a dynamic we're going to see in other industries as well? Or is it really specific to real estate?
I think for the volume and the size of the real estate in the world can be in any kind of real estate form. Imagine what's the most important part. You see all these Amazon, they don't own the warehouses, they don't own the logistic part, they possess it. but they keep the control with the long-term contracts because they don't want to sitting assets there that is going to be in the balance sheet. In Europe, it's very common that the people lease back all his assets and use the assets. The most important when you develop and building something is for the custody of that. When you're a developer like me, you make money developing and selling. And some of that we're going to continue making money developing and selling. Let's call residential or even hotels turnkey. When some of them we're going to keep it for the operation is because it's a trophy asset. Trophy asset is something that the market also doesn't digest, the public market, because the yield is very small, but you make money in the appreciation of that. But on top of that, we can create the value of the property with the administration of that. Answer your question, I think real estate, it's the biggest can gonna be transformed like that. Eventually, it's gonna be in the auto industry. Eventually, it's gonna be in the everyday of different things. But I think the biggest can be this because the real estate cover tourism that is huge in the world, cover residential, cover apartments for rent. It's crazy the prices of the apartments for rent in New York, in different cities for the students. They live in one place the first year they have to move because the owner want to kick them out. It's like a really the currency, the real estate managed by dollars or by Mexican peso. It's really a mess. I tell you, I sell properties in Mexico City and maybe 25% less than 10 years ago. People now, and people need to pay 12% interest, there is no way to pay it. They cannot cover the interest. So all those middle banks to making 12% and all that, eventually the people are going to get tired to work to pay interest. They want to work for the appreciation. They want to work for something stable that maybe tomorrow they're going to receive part of the salary in Bitcoin. So that Bitcoin, can they pay the rent? And it's going to be more stable. They're going to feel more secure that they cannot move in a small house. So I don't know where is going to be the next industry, but for sure it's going to happen, especially in the everyday life of people. I don't see it happen in the food industry. I don't see it happen in the maybe restaurants, maybe everyday transportation. But the most important what the people use every day is the real estate they own or they use, or the auto, the car industry. More than that, pay electricity with that or paying the fuel of the car with that. It maybe is going to be an evolution, but I don't know how many years it's going to take for that. But I think for now, especially there's not a lot of Bitcoins in the world. So only 121 million Bitcoins. We need to find a form to do it, but especially the valuation is going to be, I don't know, when it's hit at 250,000, 300,000, it's going to be trillions. So it's going to be enough money. The real estate market is big, but it's not that big. You understand me?
Yeah.
Especially so that can be part of the Bitcoin. Maybe have at least a percentage of that. But we see at least a lot of potential on the industry in Bitcoin.
Essentially, by having investment dollars go towards buying Bitcoin instead of bidding up real estate, that you see a world where rents will be lower because they're not being inflated by all the investment dollars going into the industry.
100%. Look, there are countries like Switzerland, the rent go down every year because they don't have interest. So the people, at least they want to have something in return for the property they have. When you have people who are expecting to make 12%, it's impossible somebody to use it. It's impossible to so that kind of market, or on top of that, when you have a real estate and you own it, you have to pay all these taxes, and the economy is totally that the owner of the real estate has to change completely the vision. So I think it's going to be a lot in favor when the Bitcoin people establish that. He's not going to be spending 8, 10%, 12% a year in rent or something like that. They're going to have the property, they're going to keep it, they're going to have the appreciation. It's going to be something very stable.
And you mentioned sale-leaseback. For those who are not familiar with that mechanism, could you describe what that is?
It's something that there is a lot of investment funds. I give you an example. They go with Amazon and they say, okay, you have this warehouse. The warehouse value today, it's let's say $1 million. And today, instead of having you $1 million, you pay the mortgage of the property you have or the loan construction. Let's say it's 60%. We give you the $1 million and you pay us the rent at 5 or 6% a year. So the people who invest in that are conservative people. It's all like hedge funds. They like to arbitrage with that. But the people who invest in that is what we have now, the public corporates like the REITs. They are in the yield. Who are the investors? Pension funds, insurance companies, people who need to have something more stable, and they don't care about depreciation. They care only about the yield, but a conservative yield. So when you have a quality of user or a lender compared to the kind of, let's say in this case, Amazon is going to be who's going to honor the contract. It's like a very secure. They're going to collect the rent. They call triple net. The user pay the maintenance, the user pay the taxes, the user pay any related. So the people receive clean money. So they don't have the headache of the administration, and they receive the money, and they have the real estate in the books, because the money that they collect from the different institutions or pension fund, insurance, like I told you, it's only to invest in real estate and give me a yield. So this is like a very common now, especially in a lot of places in the world. There are a lot of funds to do triple net sale-leaseback, meaning in 20 years you have the option to buy it back, but in 20 years going to come another fund and it's going to refinance and you pay to another guy, or you get a loan. But in this case, instead of having the property sitting there, because when you are a company, you have the asset and you have the loan. When they sell lease back, you don't have nothing. You only have the difference that you're going to make. So there is no more asset technically, but it's because you manage that, and there is no more debt because the debt it's total. So when you have a public company, your books became more clean, and you still have the property and make the difference. You understand me? It's exactly the same, but it's more clean because it's a form that doesn't have equity sitting there doing nothing.
With regards to the trophy assets, is there a different decision-making process for sale-leaseback versus just divestiture and disposing of the asset?
I think every developer, every portfolio of real estate, they need to have part of the assets in trophy assets, because it's not about the return. It's about what represent. You see in New York City, there are properties, they're never going to pay the money that it costs. And especially in the hospitality industry, you can name it 5 hotels in the world that the prices are totally, the sky is the limit. It's like a piece of art. People want to possess that. They keep it. They don't care how much they make. You can go to the Hotel Plaza in New York. There is no money. There is the money that it costs never going to make. That's why they make residential on that. But today, with the prices reposition and that, trophy assets, there is a special market for the trophy assets. Who like to buy that? The sovereign funds like Saudis, like Qataris, they like to buy in London, they like to buy in Paris, they like to buy in south of France. They have to possess that part of the portfolios because it's shine. So trophy assets became very popular, especially the hospitality, because it's not about the yield. It's about possess, because you cannot have it again. Hotel, let's say Ritz in Paris, hotels that type. It's very important for these sovereign funds to keep it, because they give them practically better value in the investments they have. But when you have warehouses, there are no trophy assets warehouses. There are no trophy assets in residential. Maybe the most important trophy assets are in the area of the hospitality.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it's almost like that kind of asset, you get to a level of scarcity that you can start to compare it to Bitcoin. It's not a perfect comparison. Exactly. So then in terms of the development process, how is that market? You mentioned that it requires a lot of expertise, right? To find the right opportunities to develop. And how do you think about the focus on the operating company and the development process versus the time spent on Bitcoin or on raising capital?
No, I think we're gonna do both things. We're gonna continue our when you're in real estate, it's like you guys are in Bitcoin. You have it in the blood. You have real estate in the blood. You want to continue developing. There is a lot of conversions to make from office building to hotel, and from office building to residential. People like to live in the urban cities now, and you can convert a lot of type of real estate in different things. It's a lot of money to make, especially when you control the cost. The thing is about the cost. All the materials are from 20 different countries. The glass, the concrete, the aluminum, the steel. So if we have a currency like Bitcoin to make all transactions in that currency, it's going to be more safe, because at the moment you send something from overseas or you compare the concrete and it's dollar oriented, or the currency of the contract must plus the interest from the taxes, from the commission, it's a problem. At the end of the day, it's a process that you buy something in 100 and you receive 80, 85.
Yeah.
Because all the different exchange rates and different currencies and everything depend on what happened in that country. We need to establish that there has to be something more stable, especially in the trading of different materials all over the world.
And in terms of the communication, have you started communicating with your employees about Bitcoin and why the company is looking at this direction?
Eventually, we're going to have an economy internal in the company of Bitcoin, especially for the everyday life of all these people. They try to understand it. That's why we're talking. I think it's going to be very important, the what you're doing to illustrate the people what is this, how they can apply in their lives, how it's going to be practically part of it. Yeah, they asked me, we're an architects. What are we going to do? We're not going to develop anymore. We're engineers. So I said, no. The real estate unit is continue growing, but it's faster to grow up in the Bitcoin industry today with the Bitcoin treasury. The investors love it. So I think it's going to be a very good complement for us to do this.
That makes sense. And so what's your long-term vision for it?
Meaning in the price of the Bitcoin or the market? Or
yeah, I think that we all agree that the price is going to generally go up. And then how do you see the real estate industry and your own company developing as the price goes up?
I think it's going to be practically, we're going to have a very good return on the equity, because we're going to have the appreciation of the Bitcoin and we're going to have the developing process. There is a very good margin, especially when you have the expertise that you cover, because we do the construction, we do the sale, we do the management, we do everything inside in a big scale, but not a lot of projects. We're going to concentrate in 2 or 3 projects, not more at the same time, especially now we do in Mexico. We're trying to extend now to Latin America. But I think it's going to be a very, very good return, especially that we are developing. We have a pipeline for developed in the next 5 years, and the plan is maybe double what the equity value of today, if developing everything that we have on our hands.
And we've seen El Salvador in the news a lot with regards to a Bitcoin adoption. How would you view the level of Bitcoin adoption in Latin America today? Do you think that it's got a lead in other ways?
I think this guy from El Salvador is a pioneer, and I think the guys have very good ideas, very good avant-garde. The guys already do a lot of changes, especially in security. Everybody in the world knows the country now. Has to leave practically the process of stabilization of the politics there, because who knows what's going to happen in 5 years. You know how this in Latin America is like a lot of interest. But I think the multi-situation like happening in Europe of let's say one currency for all Latin America, and Bitcoin could be the one to cover all that, because there is no country to control all these people. You understand me? The economies of Latin America depend on external things like tourists, workers outside. But I think eventually it's going to happen. The Bitcoin is something that's going to be forever. It's going to be here. So eventually it's going to be like something that maybe you and I never know what's going to happen in the next 20, 50 years. It's because there's going to be a lot of innovations that happened at the time with gold or with a lot of things. But it's going to happen because this is very fast, very electronic. The people like it.
And from a real estate perspective, have you evaluated like Bitcoin ATMs and deploying those? Is that common in Latin America? And I see them all over the place here in the United States.
This is something we're going to bring, especially for the hotels. Yeah. It's
That
very
makes a lot of
important.
sense.
Yeah. We're going to do the completely everything, the same.
Bitcoin everything, yeah.
And a lot of the economy of the hotels that we have is American-oriented, their users. Cancun, Mexico City. So it's a lot of users for that.
Yeah. Okay. So before we wrap it up, I wanted to see if there's anything that we missed that you wanted to cover. Any questions you have for us?
No. I like what you're doing. It's very illustrative to the people. People need to understand what it is. People understand what is this for and how they're going to use it. That's the most important of the equation. How they can use it and feel that nothing is going to happen. They're going to keep it. They're going to trade with it, and they're going to make money. And they're not going to lose money with the interest, with commission and whatnot. It's very clean. That's it. I congratulate you. You're doing a very good job.
Thank you. And thank you for coming on to explain what the Murano is doing with regards to their Bitcoin adoption. I thought it's a really fascinating thesis. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Anytime.
Thank you, Elias. Bye.